Hey people, it's me again. So, anyways, it's one of those strange things of irony, um, that is just coming up all of a sudden with me. I mean, here it was the last time I did the whole video blog, where I mentioned this one guy that I referred as the Crazy Tim or Crazy Jim, because I didn't really know what the hell his real name was. And apparently now he's back here in San Diego there. But I wasn't going to really touch him there. I think maybe now he probably has to now learn his lesson, and he has to basically say specifically what he wants and what he doesn't want. And then there wouldn't have been any kind of drama there if he just simply politely turned me down, as far as that goes. Besides, there was no real big deal there because after all, I was just simply being general about it, asking what he was doing and all of that. It didn't necessarily have to go around and block me, and then run around and say I was being a psychopath or something, But truth of the matter, he was kind of a little bit pompous and haughty and all of that sort of stuff. And that was the whole reason why I told two of my friends there, and told them to tell two of their friends, tell their friends, and then what happened? I think word got around really fast as far as that goes, and he had to leave here to San Diego, and then had to leave here to go back to San Diego after about a couple of weeks or so, and then last I heard about him was him going to like live in China in some case there for whatever it was, and then he kind of didn't like the whole experience, and then that was like the last time I actually heard of him, but then at the same time I think I kind of realized, what, he wasn't really that great, sure he had a nice ass and a nice tenor voice, but other than that, he didn't really match up as far as a personality-wise and that sort of thing there, and I don't know. But I think I was over that really, really fast, I think all I was ever going to do with him, if he said yes, was just simply just a hookup, and that was it. Nothing anything special there. And then most of the time with any of these guys there, I just simply just wanted to hook up with them, or at least that's just my ultimate goal with some of them there. But other than that, is there some of them that I want to be their friend, if they already have a boyfriend, or if they're already interested in somebody else, I'm always open to that. And then if the timing was right and the right chemistry, then maybe I kind of wanted to have something more than just a hookup, that sort of thing. Well, and that's just basically what happened with some other people there, even though I hate having to talk about Matt so many times, even though I guess I should say he was just a victim of bad timing there, but you can't really expect everybody to like you at the same amount of time and all of that, that's just how it is. It just doesn't really work that way. And in a way, I think when I finally came back here full time, I think here finally, I was already had the clean slate of everything, or at least what I probably should have felt, or what I should have this emotional clean slate there with everything, when it came to Eloy and Josh for that matter. But I probably should have gone gone around and let them know ahead of time there, that I was going back home, or and that maybe I didn't really want to be in a relationship with either one of them as far as that goes. And then none of that would have caused so much problems there. But it was just easier said than done with that. But that's how it is, I guess. But it was about maybe a week or two ago when I kind of let one of my old friends from Irving about that sort of situation. That they both knew that I was liking Eloy at the time. But they didn't know that I also liked Josh, and I probably should have revealed it a lot earlier that I liked Josh, but also Josh liked me back. And in a way, I should have gone around and explained it to them a little bit early on, or even now that I can able to find the right way to say it to them at that point now. Not how I was 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, when I didn't know how to say it to certain people, I mean, especially how it was with Eloy. I think he probably thought I was just completely weird, when I didn't know how to say it at the time, that I wasn't really looking for anything serious with him. And mainly back at that time, I think I was just only saying that I wanted something serious out of him because Mom wouldn't get off my back about everything. And I think it was the same thing with Ricky there, But, however, it was like with Ricky that things could get serious with him there if the timing and all that sort of stuff was right, and as well as all these other little things. But that just wasn't really the case. Dad wasn't really emotionally ready to let me go at that point, and then I didn't know how to deal with certain people that I gained some unwanted attention from, and that's just basically how that whole predicament with Matt was a few years ago. But it is really kind of funny sometimes that some sort of drama like that usually takes a really long time for it to get resolved, at least. And whether if it was just merely on my part trying to find the right words to say to certain people, or is merely how willing for them to listen to me in some cases, Because sometimes with some people it's just merely out of pride or out of something else or out of something else that prevents them from listening. In the case, or something else there. And merely as far as with Matt there, I think it was just out of pride. And I think it was probably like right around this point, around the end of 06 and the start of 07, I think that was when I ended up breaking up with Matt there, as a friend there. But I think it was merely that he was just experiencing sour grapes at that point, he probably just was still hoping that maybe I was going to turn around and then not forget about Ricky there, go out with him instead, but honestly, it was just merely, he just didn't, his offer wasn't really good enough for me. And I don't think he was ever really wanting to offer anything more than just sex there with me. If he just simply said right then and there, then instead of just coming off that he was in love with me of that sort, I'm very easy when it came to sex and all of that, it's just it's just all they have to state is what they want to do, what position they are, and all that sort of stuff, and then give me a time, and then if they have the means to get to me and all that sort of stuff, that sort of thing. I don't really mean to badger about that sort of stuff, but I want. I think it's just with sex there. It's just or just hooking up. It's really just that simple. As far as like if they wanted more than that, it's just merely they have to kind of at least get to know me a little bit more, rather rather than rather than you know rather than all that, because there are some guys that seem to want more than just sex with me, but yet have no interest of getting to know me further, other than just my name, my age, and where I live, and that's just about it. But really, that's just the whole reason why I had to end up breaking up with certain guys there, because they never really seemed wanting to get to know me in some cases. And a lot of times I think I had to have like some sort of window with certain people there. But it was... Wait a minute. I think it was mainly like Anthony there, because I mentioned him one time on LiveJournal at least once or twice there. Then one time on here on YouTube, but at least a couple times on LiveJournal about that. That here I didn't know that he was like friends with one of my ex friends. Lester there, and then the fact that it seemed like the entire time, even when he was dating someone else at the time, he didn't really want to get to know me, even as a friend at that point. And there was no problem with me getting to know him as a friend, even if he was dating somebody else, because that is just basically harmless there. And then merely, even if he had became available there, then he would have had a shot with me. But since he didn't act like he wanted to get to know me a little bit more the entire time, which was almost like about a year, or maybe a little bit more than a year, and then by the time I finally got to know a little bit more about like his last name, how old he was, and what his interests were, and all of that, it seemed like it was just too late for him there. I had to break up with him. I had to dump him there, because he didn't really seem that interested there in the entire time, even after I finally got to know him, then it was like, what the hell, but mainly he probably thought I just thought he was like a bore, but then I think he probably really know the real reason now. But then sometimes it's like you have to kind of give them the real reason, maybe a little bit later on there, once you're kind of emotionally cleared from all that, and now that you have to like clear the air with certain people there. And I guess I would say, as far as with Anthony there, I'm really just not sure if I ever really wanted to see him again as far as that goes. The thing is not only that he had a friend, that he had like a mutual friend there, he could have also had all the other mutual friends ask about me at some point, or he could have asked Jeremy or James about me at that point, but it doesn't really matter then. But then I could have realized it's just that I have to kind of keep some of them around there as far as any of those friends there. But then, as I kind of said, there were even some friends that of Drew's that are friends with me, or there are some friends of mine that are also friends with Drew's, that sort of thing. And that was one of the whole reasons why I was wanting to kind of keep him around at that point, because of the fact that the whole bear community around here in LA tends to be very close knit in some cases. Even though we're like all spread out across the way, but it seems like everybody is friends with everybody, or even if they weren't really friends with everybody, I think everybody had slept with everybody as far as that goes. I mean, I probably might have slept with one of Drew's friends, and I did not even know that they were his friends, But there were some of them that I just probably talked to that I didn't even know that they were his friends, And then, let alone if any of other friends that might have slept with one of my friends or something like that, that sort of thing. It's just a little bit crazy, but then if you consider the fact that not just also in the LA area, but that we also have friends that are in the San Diego area, or friends that are in other places, in the San Francisco area, or Sacramento area, or Portland, or Seattle, or all over the place that tend to be close knit. But in a way, my whole experience as far as that goes, in the past 5 years, I think I kind of made a whole lot of friends and felt pretty much belong with the whole bear chub community here in Los Angeles. I mean, about the time when I came back here in '05 or so, I mean, I didn't really have a whole lot of friends in the bear community in Los Angeles yet, Although mainly I was starting to make a little bit more during the course of '06 or so, or maybe even more, or maybe even earlier than that, like around the summer of '05 or the fall of '05, as far as that goes, because of the fact that now that I was homebounded, and the fact that now that I'm like out at home now, and merely that whole entire time in the fall of '05 and all of '06, I was just a kid in a candy store, and then maybe I probably should have waited a little bit later before I started seeing someone there instead, but it doesn't really matter then, I mean, the case with like Ricky there, I mean, I was gonna end up meeting him either way, whether it was offline or online, and that's just how it is there, because Ricky also had a couple of friends, mutual friends that were friends with my friends in the GSA, that he had maybe like one or two friends that were friends with one of my friends in the GSA there. And that's how it goes. And it's the same thing here, that I also had any other people that I know of that were like friends with my friends, and so on and so forth. But the thing is, with a lot of the people there, it's just that they're a little bit further away from me. But where they're like in Long Beach or some other place like that, and then there are some that are more like in Anaheim or Santa Ana or some other places there. But then it's kind of a little bit strange, even though Laguna Beach is really close by. But Laguna Beach is supposed to be like the gay area in Orange County, but but it tends to be a little bit more like the general gay community there, but not really a whole lot of bears or chubs there. But mainly, there are like more bears that are usually in the Bay Area than opposed to LA here. But because that's just where the whole bear movement has started, but it's almost like that whole Sawdust Festival, and I have to explain to people a little bit more about like the Sawdust Festival, that that the Sawdust Festival is one of the art festivals in Laguna Beach. Originally, they had like the regular Laguna Beach Arts Festival, and then they were kind of they kept rejecting certain people for whatever reasons of it, that they weren't artsy enough and all of that sort of stuff. And then the next people that were rejected there, they formed the Sawdust Festival, and then they're basically doing the very same thing, rejecting certain people there that didn't fit their standards, and then that's just what happened so far with like the bear community here. The general gay community goes around rejecting them because they don't have the bleach hair sprayed on tan and the six pack and all that sort of stuff there, and then they kind of seem to look a little bit more normal looking or something like that, and then you know what? As far as with the bear community, it's the same thing that going around. And they kind of rejecting people that aren't really that bear enough or something. And although there are not really a whole lot of bears that are really exactly cute now, but we're gonna use the chubs there. But still, it's the same thing there. There was like one of those friends who kind of complained about how he's not bear enough, that he's too big to be kind of considered on the normal gay community there, but he's not heavy enough to be considered a bear, not hairy enough to be considered a bear, and all that sort of stuff there. I just think, well, what the hell there? It's just, you just have to wing it there. But who knows, really? But as I kind of have to explain a little bit more, if my phone will allow me to, that a lot of things tend to be this sort of way, with the bear community or with other communities there, but it's just really strange how they do the same things that they didn't like doing before. It was like the whole pot calling the kettle black and all this sort of things. Projecting certain people that didn't really quit the criteria, and then they basically forgotten the fact that they formed their own community because they were rejected by the establishment of some sort. And that's basically what had happened so far here. The regular gay community had basically rejected all the Bears and all of that, and now the Bear community became a little bit more underground, more of an underground community to start off, and back in the late '70s, early '80s. And then now it's like it became a little bit more mainstream nowadays, and now they're trying to reject people there in a way, especially in some cases now, even 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 some people, uh, some of my straight friends now know like what a bear is, or would pretty much would know what I'm like talking about when they see like a bear, because he had seen me add all these certain guys that looked all the same in some cases, and they seen me having all these bear friends there, and they kind of say, oh, that's what he's like talking about when he's seeing a bear or a chub, as far as that goes. But in a way, the bear or the chub thing has always been around, and in a way, there's even such things like a straight chubby chasers, in whether if it was a guy liking big girls or a girl liking big guys, as far as that goes, and mainly the whole thing goes is the whole code goes for like the BHN or BBWs is a whole straight term for chubby chasers. I don't know if there was such thing as far as the straight bears there. If there were girls that actually like the big and hairy guys, as far as that goes. But I think in a way, it's more for some of them. It's more like the psychological things or other things in general. For some people that seem to want more of a big girls, whether if it was just merely out of just whether if it's just out of like personal choice, or maybe it's just some people that were just naturally attracted to them in some cases. And then I think for me, pretty much, it was kind of like a little bit of both, and that I was attracted to guys that were like chubby early on, Plus, also other times I was maybe attracted to them merely out of choice. When it came to like certain guys that were like not that way, and that weren't really a bear, or certainly for that matter, and then realized it just didn't feel right with them, or maybe they were just being a jerk around me or something like that, And then I think I just chose these type of guys there. I think my whole taste with the Bears had started to evolve a little bit more when I was after I was coming out a little bit, But it was right around when I was already like crushing on Eloy and Josh, instead of like these other guys there. But I think it was mainly because like Eloy and Josh were both a little bit on the chubby side, and then both of them had like the whole different person, had a completely different personalities, and they were both a little bit more down to earth, or at least just appeared that way at the time, I mean, with Eloy there, but I think as far as with Josh, he was still like down to earth, as far as that goes, But then I don't know. But I think it was probably right around when they started doing the first season of The Biggest Loser. That was when I was starting to have a bit of a crush on Matt there, from The Biggest Loser, because of course he went that way, so there was no real problem there, But I think the entire time, I think I just seemed to like Matt better when he was chubby, rather when he kind of lost all that weight there, when after he left the show. But then I kind of heard that he kind of gained all that weight back. But that's just mainly because they get bored. Mainly, it's just they got bored with just being all skinny and that sort of cases. And then, in a way, how like mom or dad said, it was that they didn't really care much for the trainers there, especially with Julian, who was supposed to be match trainer. And I think she was just a little bit too much of a hard nose. And then it happened like on one of those episodes of Dr. Phil a few years ago, where some girl was talking about that one trainer who I think just had some visceral hatred towards chubby people, or maybe he was just conditioned that way in some cases, But now it just seems to be maybe there's a little bit more of the fat acceptance movement is starting to gain more of a momentum here because of it's because of that there's just some people that seem to realize that being like skinny isn't really everything, and then the fact that there was all these people complaining about how Photoshop certain models are, and they all look completely rail thin and all that, and then they're trying to pass that off as being attractive or something like that. And in a way, that was just the case with the twinks there, that they try to pass that off as being attractive when those guys are just rail thin. They're just nothing but skin and bones there, and how can that be considered attractive if they're just all rail thin? I like someone with like a little bit of meat on their bones there, what if they have to be like at least either chubby or at least maybe muscular at that point, but you know what I mean as far as that goes. But I think it did like some of those guys at a time, but I think it seemed like the more I try to look as far as anything there with them, it seemed like there wasn't really any kind of commonalities for me to be attracted to those type of guys, the jock boys there, other than the fact that the whole gay community themselves is trying to pass that off as attractive when in reality it's not everybody could ever define that as attractive, because people define attractive different ways. I mean, that's just basically what I'm saying here now. But I hate having to go rail on about that, So, anyways, even though it's been about a half an hour since I basically talked about everything, but I think it's just time for me to kind of end this. So, anyways, see you guys next time.